Stephanie just can't let a good thing die, or a bad thing die. Okay, before we do that, we gotta go into a little bit of history. Thank God. I can't believe I prefer real life as opposed to fantasy, but here we are. So basically, outside of Twilight, Stephanie Meyer hasn't written necessarily all that much. She wrote a couple books, like for instance, The Host, which also had a movie adaptation, came out the same year as Breaking Dawn came out, which was the same year that Twilight the film came out. So at least they got a complete story, unlike Game of Thrones, but still, whatever. And she also wrote The Chemist in 2016, which I could not find anything about, nor do I want to, because as a person who knows way too much about Twilight, and even The Host now, which is basically a sci-fi version of Twilight, I don't want to. I don't want to know what The Chemist is, okay? Can I have that dignity still? Please? Thank you. Anyway. But in between then and now, she's been kicking around two basically opposite ideas. One was that her critics, when she actually listened to her critics and didn't, live in her own bubble, some of them were kind of saying, apparently Edward wouldn't do the same thing if he was like a girl or something, that they would kind of look at him a lot different if he was a girl or whatever, or something like that. So in between 2016 and 2008 and 2016, she developed something for the fans for Twilight's 10th anniversary, Life and Death, a Twilight reimagined. I was about to say a Twilight story, but that's Star Wars. What am I talking about? And she was also kicking around this idea for a Twilight book, but from Edward's perspective. And supposedly, it was called Midnight Sun, and everyone was just up, the fandom was up roaring and praising it, and it was like, where are we gonna get it? But apparently, I think there was a couple of leaks that kind of happened or something where where Stephanie was just like, yeah, listen, I'm not gonna publish it now because the leaks happened. Also, what we really haven't touched upon quite yet, 50 Shades of Grey also started its publishing thing, and since it was basically Twilight fan fiction, and Stephanie Meyer does not like E.L. James nor 50 Shades of Grey, let me tell you, E.L. James, published 50 Shades of Grey, but from Christian Grey's perspective, and it was called Grey, and because Grey was around, Stephanie was like, no, I'm not going to publish Midnight Sun anymore. But lo and behold, as of 2020, it was finally published. Midnight Sun was released into the ethos, if you will, in all of its glory. So we have two different interpretations of Twilight. And Lord of the Rings has only one. How is this possible? But yes, I indulged for the kind folks, and I read both of these books. God help us all. So we're going to start out with Life and Death, the first thing that came out that was Twilight adjacent, if you will. And yes, this is the one where there is a ton of the genders all mixed up, except for certain people. Like, for instance, Charlie, aka the boss, the man, the father of Bella / the one that shall not be named yet, because I need to go into that. But anyway, Charlie is still the father because apparently Stephanie described, hey, being born at this certain time and all that, it's going to be kind of difficult to gain custody of a kid, during that time when you're constantly moving and all that type of stuff. So yeah, we're gonna be, just kind of leaving those as it is, which I gotta say is probably the smartest decision that Stephanie Meyer has ever made in writing for a very considerable amounts. At least in the Twilight Saga. I have not, again, haven't read The Chemist, know somewhat of the host. But again, in Twilight specifically, this is the smartest decision I've seen. And a lot of forethought into that. So good job, Stephanie Meyer, gold star. There you go. Now there's a lot of people that have very different names, but instead of just telling you what each and every character is, even though they do certain things, I'm not gonna really divulge every single aspect of what happened because it's basically the same story, just played out slightly differently. So instead, we're just going to divulge into the main three, okay? We got Bella, who now is a boy and is named Beaufort. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but Beaufort. We're just going to go with that, Beaufort. Edward is now Edine. I guess Edine? No, it's Edith. Okay, there we go. But we got to keep in mind here, okay? It's spelled with a Y instead of an I and an E at the end. So, Edith with a Y and an E at the end. So, yeah, they really... if they make a movie on this, they really want you to know how Edith is spelled, okay? Listen. And, of course, Jacob... Although he doesn't have a whole lot of, story within this story, even though he becomes a major character later on, I guess, whatever. I'll just say who Jacob is. Jacob is Julie, which is probably the closest to the most real name, possibly, of everybody in the cast now, including Charlie. I'm sorry, I've lost all sense of hope now. Now I'm just reading this weird, basically fan fiction of these books. I've lost all sense of reality. Please call the authorities. I've lost my mind. Anyway, it basically plays out almost exactly the same with a few minor differences. Like, for instance, Edith is actually a lot better-ish than Edward. She's a lot less stalkery. She, instead of just, doing a lot of weird, creepy things, she does less creepy things, or doesn't do certain things like, watch people sleep. So there's that. But as previously mentioned, there are a few differences within the story. So let's just point them out, shall we? For instance, when Charlie was picking up Beau, as he likes to be called, apparently, he bumps into this tattooed guy, and his girlfriend, just kind of gives him the stank eyes, and then she sees Charlie, and then they both kind of go off, which is setting up something for later on. It's pretty lazy. It's almost like it's copy and pasted into this story, but whatever, I guess, okay. And I don't think I mentioned this particular part of the story, but, in the Twilight book, okay, Edward smells Bella for the first time, and he's all like, oh gosh, I just want her so bad, But Bella's like, all I smell is my strawberry shampoo, which is just... is probably, like, the most awful smelling shampoo I could possibly imagine. It's so fruity. It's almost like a artificial strawberry scent or something. It just reminds me of strawberry shortcake. I don't know why. Anyway, instead of that, we basically get the exact same scene, except all Bo can smell is his detergent. Which I gotta say, no. Okay, I can actually comment on this now, okay? Because I'm a guy. And I'll tell you something, okay? Middle schoolers, they are all about the Axe body spray, okay? You will find middle schoolers just smelling up the wazoo. But when you get to high school, okay, you will smell Axe body spray, especially during 2005, okay? Listen. This is the time when guys are like, oh yeah, I should probably smell better than body odor. So yeah, spray on that Axe. Spray in that Axe. Or hell, I knew people in high school, kids in high school, who put on cologne, okay? Listen, cologne, anybody? Okay? Especially if this Bo kid is a skinny, trendy hipster, okay? You can bet your bottom dollar he's packing a woodland pine cologne, okay? Listen, okay? Come on now. Not perfume, cologne. Okay, there you go. But then later on, there's this shopping scene or whatever that you know, that basically translates into Bella trying to avoid being sexually, you know, cornered and all that type of thing. Let's put it that way. And while reading, I was like, gee, I wonder how Stephanie is going to change this. So she changes the shopping to guys' movie night because this person has no idea what guys do by themselves without girls. Okay, listen, we're jumping the hog. Okay, we're getting on that motorcycle. We're going Zoom. Okay, we're going into town. We're just going donuts in the parking lot over here. I mean, wait, come on now, cranking up those tunes. Getting that Jeep Wrangler, going mudding over here. I mean, come on. What are you talking about? Guys, movie night? What do you think we're watching? Fast and Furious? No, we're listening to that soundtrack while we go mudding, Stephanie. Come on now. But anyway, apparently, the Bo gets jumped by the guy that he bumped into in the airport because apparently they think that he's a cop and he witnessed their crime that they committed. So now they gotta just take him out. Which I gotta say, Stephanie, for all of us in the real world, okay, people have gotten jumped for far less. Sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then you get jumped. You don't need like a huge asinine setup for this. The hell you doing? And so, you know, Edith, she comes in, you know, just busts some ass, and there you go, the end. And basically, you know, it kind of follows along the same plot and all that. All the girls ask out this guy, which I gotta say, okay, if girls came up to me in, I don't know, when I went to school, in high school, which was like 2012, something like that, I would be like, thank you. Thank you for asking. Hell yeah, I would like to go out on a date with you. Because I don't know where Stephanie Meyer grew up. In fact, I could probably research it, but I'm not going to. But I can rest assure you that where I grew up, girls don't necessarily ask the guys out. Although it should be the same. It's kind of not. It's a very rare occurrence when a girl actually asks a guy out. But yeah, so anyway, this other person, you know, just boasts around, just like saying, hey, I asked Bo out and all that. But then apparently he stomps into the cafeteria and gives this huge speech about how this shouldn't happen and how dare you use me for revenge or whatever. And I'm just like, the hell is this? And this is also where the changes also start to show some effect. Like, for instance, Bo is apparently 6 feet tall, at least, and can play basketball. And Edith is a very petite, girl, if you will. And, the whole Spire Monkey thing, that thing, she actually has to do a little bit of gymnastics in order for this to happen. She can't carry him, but ish, like Edward does with Bella or whatever. But he puts, it's more of a sensual type of thing here where, Bo actually has to grab onto her waist and all that and kind of like become like not a backpack, but kind of like a camper backpack. If you don't know, then lucky you. There's also more of a thing about sex. There's more mention on sex in this book than there was in the Twilight book, which kind of shocked me, honestly. The fact that they were being so translucent with that, because that's the whole thing that this entire 4-book saga, if you will, has been about. So I was just like, that's actually kind of refreshing. Another thing is that, Edith, for the most part, is actually a better Edward. I can't really put my finger on it. I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that she's more in her own element, I guess. Like, she's very confident in herself. She's not like, brooding or just a troubled man or whatever. She's kind of like sits on Bo's lap and all that. And she's very, confident in herself and a genuine, pleasant person to be around, to the point where her and Bo are kind of, why are you after Bo? It's kind of like those rom-coms or whatever, like these beautiful babes are like all over these nerds, and I'm just like, why are you all over this nerd right here? It doesn't make sense. And then, basically it plays out the exact same, where there's the baseball thing, the bad guys show up, and yada, yada, yada. Whatever, they go into this warehouse, whatever, basically plays out the same thing, and the end. And actually, the last 15 pages is the part where it gets a lot more different, to the point where I'm just like, why is it so short? Because there's plenty of material here for a second book, or perhaps a part 2, or even making the book longer, because you can technically make as long of a book as you want, Stephanie Meyer, and no one would question you. But I guess you gotta fit the quota, I guess. I don't know. So Bo actually gets the vampiric, venom into her system and all, or his system and all that. I keep on forgetting. Bo is a boy, Bella is a girl. There we go. But Bo, the venom's actually gotten way too far into his system and all that, and he actually turns into a vampire. Yeah, if Edith tries to suck it out, suck it all out, he would die of blood loss. But apparently he's also puking a lot, and he's rolling around in vomit. So there you go. That's the gross out whatever drama that we all love Stephanie Meyer for. Thank you for that mental image. And then after this, we get a huge Lewis lore dump again. We got the Meyer lore dumps now, I'm famous for those. But now, this one, I think, tops the cake, because we get all the history of the Ventari in like 2 pages, when it took like 4 gigantic books in the saga, if you will. She literally dumps it all out in 2 pages, which is the most dense pages I have read in a very long time. That being, Twilight and whatever, but still dense. The densest pages I've read from Stephanie Meyer, by all means, okay? But also now, apparently, the Ventari now have this a vampire named Melee who can take the powers from other vampires and put them into other people, I guess, other vampires. So they automatically they kill off certain vampires or whatever, and now the Ventari are like 2/3 female now or whatever. So yeah, there's certain things that kind of just transpire over the course of these 15 pages and all that. So yeah, there's this mental patient that was from the first book. It's now a mental doctor now. Okay, and there's a person, Ernest falls off the cliff and all that. There's the person who gets attacked by the bear. I don't even know anymore, man. I want this to be over so bad. We're almost there. And basically that's it. Yeah, apparently Bo now goes back to Forks, but he can no longer see his family. And yeah, that's it. That's all she wrote. Literally all she wrote. Now, to be fair, okay, putting all my critiques aside for now, let me just put it out there that Stephanie Meyer didn't necessarily have to do it, okay? She was approached by her publisher or whatever to just say, hey, you want to write something for the 10th anniversary for the Twilight book so we can publish this and all that type of thing. And she's like, no, actually, I want to give the fans something more, So she wrote this book. Now, sometimes there's some interesting changes. But then there are other changes that are just like, okay, she literally copy and pasted or word searched the name Bella and changed it to Bo. And that's it. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of different enough where I can say I'm glad fans got what they wanted, I guess, but it's also not different enough where I can say I gained anything from reading it. But then again, it's more than I could say about Breaking Dawn because I have such a negative aspect from reading that anything else is basically going to go straight up to the top for me. So I'm going to probably put this one just underneath New Moon? Yeah, I'm going to put this right underneath New Moon because although there are some interesting changes, there's just not a lot of differences, I just feel the copy and pasting just resonating out of this book. But do you know what is not copy and pasted? Midnight Sun.